The latest installment in Codemasters and EA's F1 series introduces Breaking Point 2, a sequel to the Breaking Point story of F1 21. This new story follows the creation of a brand new 11th team in Formula 1, Konnersport Racing. The team, owned by Andrea O'Connor and funded by Devon Butler, features the drivers of Aiden Jackson, Devon Butler and the up-and-coming sensation of Callie Mayer. This story follows just 2 seasons in the sport, but that got me thinking, how far could they go with more time in the sport? So I loaded up a new save in F1 23 MyTeam, created the Konnersport team and simulated through 10 full seasons to see where they would end up. Now before we begin, if you want to show some extra support, you can become a channel member for just $1.99 a month and get access to perks such as member shoutouts, priority replies and early access to upcoming videos. For the duration of this simulation, the main driver at Konnersport will be Jarno Opmeer. He is arguably the fastest F1 esports driver, but this is also to do with the fact that Jackson, Devon Butler, Callie Mayer and Casper Ackermann are all signable drivers in the game. Going into Season 1 and with all the drivers at their current teams, Mercedes have managed to come out on top and win the Constructors' Championship. The British pair of Russell and Hamilton managed to beat the incredibly fast Red Bull team, with the Ferraris not too far behind. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, 3 different teams occupied the top 3, with the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc finishing 3rd, the Red Bull of Max Verstappen finishing 2nd, and a brand new champion in the form of the Mercedes driver George Russell. Despite winning less races than both Max and Charles, consistent high points finishes took George to the very top. Hamilton managed to return to the top step of the podium on 3 occasions, with the 2nd Red Bull of Sergio Perez matching this achievement. The veteran of Fernando Alonso finally found that 33rd win he is so desperate for, and even added a 34th for good measure. Konnersport had an average first season, with Opmeer finishing in 12th with 22 points and Aiden Jackson finishing P14 with 15. In terms of driver moves, the only change is due to the retirement of the Haas driver Nico Hülkenberg. He is then replaced by the rookie of Théo Pourchaire. At the end of this season, the FIA are going to introduce some regulation changes to both the aerodynamics and the durability departments. Some driver moves were sparked mid-season with the retirement of Fernando Alonso halfway through. He was replaced by the Williams driver of Alex Albon, opening up a seat for the Haas driver of Magnussen to move into. This allows Liam Lawson to make his debut for the final half of the season. Moving into the second season, and there are some similar results, with Mercedes once again winning the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin made a large jump up to P2 in the standings, with Red Bull finishing in 3rd. The previous champion of George Russell only managed to finish 3rd this season, with Max Verstappen once again finishing 2nd. After Mercedes' dominance, this season brings a highly sought after 8th World Championship for Sir Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso and his Aston Martin replacement of Alex Albon both secured 7 wins, with the champion of Hamilton only winning 3 times. Max Verstappen won 4 times, with Charles Leclerc managing 2 wins throughout the season. Konnersport as a team finished in P8, with Opmeer scoring 4 points for P13 and Aiden Jackson failed to score a single point and finished in P19. Quite a few driver moves occurred this season due to Konnersport releasing Aiden Jackson. This allowed the team to recruit the French driver of Esteban Ocon. Yuki Tsunoda decided to jump ship and take the free Alpine seat, with Magnussen moving away from Williams after just half a season. Carlos Sainz made the questionable move away from Ferrari to the Williams team. He is replaced by his former teammate, the McLaren driver of Lando Norris. Valtteri Bottas moves away from Alfa Romeo to McLaren, with the other Alpine driver of Pierre Gasly moving to Alfa Romeo. The last open seat is taken by F2 champion Felipe Drugovich, allowing him to make his Formula 1 debut. Going into the 3rd season, and Red Bull have managed to dethrone Mercedes at the top of the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes did drop to 2nd, with Aston Martin dropping another place to 3rd. George Russell once again finished in 3rd place, with Max Verstappen in 2nd. A brand new driver wins the F1 Drivers' Championship this year, with the brand new Aston Martin driver of Alex Albon taking his first ever championship. Max Verstappen seemed to dominate the season with 11 wins, but finished just 2 points behind Albon, who won 6 races. The remaining wins were split equally by Russell, Perez and Hamilton, as they all won twice. Konnersport dropped another place to P9 with Ocon and P15 on 12 points, and Opmeer was only capable of 3 points to finish P17. Driver moves this season were caused by the 8-time champion Sir Lewis Hamilton finally deciding to retire from the sport. Carlos Sainz makes a jump from customer team Williams to Mercedes in hopes of more race wins. Bottas moves away from McLaren after just 1 season and returns to Williams. Despite winning the championship with Aston Martin, Albon decides to move away and joins the McLaren team. Logan Sargent then replicates Albon's move with him moving from Williams to Aston Martin, and the free agent of Dennis Hauger then joins the Williams team to make his Formula 1 debut. A simple driver swap is then made between Aston Martin and AlphaTauri, with Lance Stroll and Nick de Vries switching teams for next season. Some more regulation changes should shake things up next season, with changes being made to both the chassis and powertrain departments. The regulation changes put in place last season did in fact cause some changes, as Red Bull were not able to retain the championship, with Mercedes returning to the top. Max Verstappen at Red Bull did finish third this season's championship, with the Mercedes drivers dominating. The new Mercedes driver of Carlos Sainz managed to finish at career high in P2, with George Russell managing to win a second drivers' championship. He did win the most races this season with 8, while Carlos Sainz was not too far behind, winning 6. P3 for Verstappen was helped by 4 race wins, with the rest of the wins split by 5 drivers. Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon and Sergio Perez all won a race, with new race winners in the forms of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Konnersport dropped a place once again to P9, with Ocon scoring 45 points to finish in P13, while Opmeer struggled and only scored 1 point. Quite surprisingly, at the end of Season 4 there were no driver moves, but there will be changes made to the regulations regarding the aerodynamics department. Season 5 was unsurprisingly dominated by the Silver Arrows, with Mercedes finishing at the top of the Constructors' Championship once again. The team scored almost 1,000 points while finishing over 300 points ahead of the Red Bull team in second place. As we look to the Drivers' Championship, the Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen wasn't able to beat any of the Mercedes drivers, as he finished third in the standings. The two Mercedes drivers topped the standings, with Carlos Sainz finishing in P2. This meant that George Russell outscores everyone else and wins the Drivers' Championship for the third time. He won over half the races with 13, allowing his teammate to win just 5 times. Max Verstappen utilised his 3 wins for his P3. His Red Bull teammate of Sergio Perez also managed to secure a win this season, with Logan Sargent becoming the newest Formula 1 race winner. Konnersport had a better season this year as they moved up into P8, with both drivers scoring a solid chunk of points. 49 points for Ocon gave him a P12 finish, with Opmeer finishing just behind in P13. Valtteri Bottas becomes the latest Formula 1 driver to retire from the sport, making a move to Williams possible for Theo Pourchaire. A seat then opens up at Haas for Jehan Daruvala to race in next season. After coming second place behind George Russell in consecutive seasons, Carlos Sainz decides to join Bottas in retirement. Esteban Ocon is then taken away from Konnersport to fill this vacant Mercedes seat, meaning Konnersport will bring in Devon Butler for the foreseeable future. This simulation is starting to replicate the late 2010s as the Mercedes dominance continues and they go on to win a 5th championship, a 3rd in a row. Aston Martin making a significant improvement, jumping from P5 last season to finishing P2 this season. The Drivers' Championship continues to look similar, with the Red Bull of Max Verstappen finishing in 3rd behind the 2 Mercedes. However, 3-time champion George Russell is demoted to 2nd place this year, with ex-Konnersport driver and new Mercedes driver Esteban Ocon taking his first ever Drivers' Championship. He added 6 wins to his drivers' tally, however 2nd place Russell did actually win more with 8. Max Verstappen continues to win 3 races while finishing 3rd, and both Aston Martin drivers of Nick de Vries and Logan Sargent won twice. The Ferrari drivers of Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc both managed to win once. Konnersport continued to improve as they finished P6 this season, with Devon Butler managing to break into the top 10, finishing 8th and scoring 139 points. Opmeer is still behind, but he scored 51 points to finish in P13. A very crazy silly season this year is caused by the retirements of both Red Bull drivers, being Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. First of all, the Ferrari driver of Lando Norris takes one of the open seats at Red Bull, with Juri Vips replacing him. The other Red Bull seat is then taken by a champion in the form of George Russell. While there will be a new driver lined up at Red Bull, there will also be a brand new one for Ferrari as Charles Leclerc moves to Mercedes. Pierre Gasly then moves into the open Ferrari seat, with Lance Stroll swapping Alpha for Alpha. The Haas driver of Liam Lawson then moves into the AlphaTauri, with Jack Doohan making his debut at Haas next season. And after a load of driver moves, the FIA have approved regulation changes to be made to the chassis, powertrain and durability departments. Despite the crazy transfers and regulation changes, Mercedes still continues to dominate and will finish at the top of the standings. However, there is a brand new face in the top 3 as Konnersport driver Devon Butler manages to finish 3rd place this season. Mercedes drivers still occupy the top 2, with Charles Leclerc finishing 2nd and Ocon managing to win a 2nd consecutive Drivers' Championship. He did manage to win 10 races this season while his teammate won 8. Devon Butler continues Verstappen's traditions of winning 3 races to finish P3 in the standings, with race wins also coming for Vips and Logan Sargent. Konnersport had a really great season as they jump all the way to P2, with Butler of course finishing 3rd. Opmeer is improving as he just misses out on the top 10 as he finishes 11th on 95 points. Some more driver moves this season is due to Vips being dropped by Ferrari. They then signed Alex Albon to try and return to the top. Mercedes signed Lance Stroll as a replacement, opening the seat for Daruvala to move into Alfa Romeo. Felipe Drugovich has spent his entire time at Alpine, but has moved away into Haas, allowing Vips to return at Alpine. In Season 8, and the results of the Constructors' Championship remain the exact same as the previous season, with Mercedes leading Konnersport and Aston Martin. The Drivers' Championship then also remains pretty similar, with Devon Butler finishing 3rd, the Mercedes of Charles Leclerc finishing 2nd, and Esteban Ocon winning another Drivers' Championship. The Mercedes drivers were split when it came to race wins, as they both managed to win 9 races this season. Devon Butler had a solid season, winning 4 races, with the Williams of Dennis Hauger winning the last available race. Konnersport finished second again, with Butler in third, but Opmeer drops to P12, scoring only 74 points. Over half the drivers changed teams this season, sparked by the retirement of the Ferrari driver Pierre Gasly. Oscar Piastri is the latest driver to move from McLaren into Ferrari, with Zhou Guanyu replacing him at McLaren. Felipe Drugovich moves away from Haas after just 1 season, as he joins Alfa Romeo with Vips replacing him. Lance Stroll moves teams once again as he joins Alpine, with Marcus Armstrong making his debut with McLaren next season. Another driver joins Gasly in retirement as Devon Butler calls his time in Formula 1. Konnersport then go to sign a former champion in the form of George Russell. Another champion then replaces him, with Alex Albon moving from Ferrari to Red Bull, with Yuki Tsunoda moving from Alpine to Ferrari. Jack Doohan then moves away from Haas and takes the open Alpine seat. The final Haas seat is then taken by a debuting driver of Iwasa. Along with the drivers changing, there will be some regulation changes being made to the aerodynamics department. Moving into the penultimate season, and once again it is the Mercedes team coming out on top. The Constructors' Championship almost remains unchanged, apart from Alpine overtaking McLaren for 7th place. Despite winning the last 3 Drivers' Championships, Esteban Ocon drops down to 3rd place this year, being overtaken by the new Konnersport driver of George Russell. They then both finished behind Ocon's teammate of Charles Leclerc. He managed to secure his first ever Drivers' Championship this year by winning 9 races, despite George Russell winning more at 10. Ocon had a poor season in comparison to his previous seasons, as he is only able to finish on the top step twice. The last 2 races were won by Logan Sargent and Théo Pourchaire. Konnersport then remain in P2, with George Russell securing their highest ever finish. Opmeer finally breaks into the top 10, finishing 10th on just 88 points. The only driver moves this season consist of Marcus Armstrong being replaced at McLaren by Kevin Magnussen. This opens up a seat at AlphaTauri for Iwasa to take, while allowing Armstrong to drive at Haas for the final season. In the final season, we were hoping for something different, something exciting. But Mercedes don't like the idea of losing their Constructors' Championship, as they are the final winners in this simulation. They also do not want to lose the Drivers' Championship in the last season, as the top 3 remain the same, with Ocon in 3rd, the Konnersport driver of George Russell finishing 2nd, and Charles Leclerc winning back-to-back championships. He does improve on last season's results by winning 10 races this season, with George Russell only winning 9. After that, 4 drivers of Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Logan Sargent and Théo Pourchaire all win 1 race in this last season. Konnersport arguably have their best season this year, despite finishing 2nd. Russell remains 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, but Jarno Opmeer moved up to P9, scoring bang on 100 points. But which driver had the best 10 seasons? Let's have a look at the final stats and figure it out. Of course, the team that had the best simulation was Mercedes, winning 9 out of a possible 10 Constructors' Championships, with Red Bull winning only once. 18 different drivers stood on the top step of the podium, with George Russell winning the most with 54 race wins. Charles Leclerc wasn't too far behind with 44, and Max Verstappen followed with just 31. Esteban Ocon managed 28 race wins, with Alex Albon winning 14 times. Carlos Sainz won 11, Alonso won 9 and Hamilton won 8. Then we go down to Devon Butler, who had 7 race wins, joined by Perez, who also won 7 races. Sargent finished with 6 wins, and Lando Norris came close behind with 3. Both Nick de Vries and Théo Pourchaire finished with 2, while Hauger, Vips, Piastri and Gasly can all say they are race winners, even if it was only once. When it comes to the Drivers' Championship, the simulation actually created 5 in 10 seasons. Albon managed to only win the title once alongside Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc managed the final 2 seasons, with George Russell and Esteban Ocon both managing to win 3 Formula 1 World Drivers' Championships. But that is going to be it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to drop a like to show your support and subscribe if you haven't already. Also have a think about becoming the newest channel member just by clicking the join button below. Now if you want to see how the next 10 seasons of Formula 1 will go without Konnersport, go and check out my previous video. I hope you all have a good day. Goodbye.